Harvard University gears up for a high-stakes hearing as its rift with the Trump administration continues to grow by the day. That school fighting to keep billions of dollars.
The recent clash between Trump and Harvard University has brought back a legal war. This time, institutions are not bowing to the high powers. This ongoing tension has been suggested that has roots extending from the era of Ronald Reagan through the McCarthy period, reflecting a consistent desire within certain political circles to control over educational and intellectual spheres. So, where is this matter actually shifting towards? Let's find out. This week, Donald Trump reacted strongly after Harvard's president voiced opposition to demands that could have significantly altered the university's autonomy in hiring, admissions, and curriculum design. While this particular confrontation may seem new, it is viewed by some as a continuation of broader efforts to reshape various aspects of American society, with higher education being a key target. Todd Wolfson, president of the American Association of University Professors, expressed serious concerns, stating, "They're attempting to undermine and destabilize and ultimately control higher education, and at one level, it's an assault on higher education. At another level, it could be seen as prevalent to a full-on assault on democracy." So I think this is a threat to the future of the United States of America, and because of this country's role in the world, a threat to the entirety of the globe at this moment. Following Harvard's refusal to comply with Trump's requests, the government announced plans to potentially freeze a substantial $2.2 billion in grants and $60 million in multi-year contract value to the institution. The demands made by the administration included the appointment of an external body approved by the White House to audit the diversity of viewpoints among students, faculty, staff, and leadership.
The Trump administration as the fight continues over institutional oversight, independence, and federal funding. The lawsuit comes a day after the president threatened to cut another $1 billion in funding. University President Alan Garber announcing the lawsuit in a letter to the Harvard community. The National News Desk's Jeff Harris has more on what he wrote.
Additionally, there was a call for the immediate closure of all diversity, equity, and inclusion (DEI) programs at Harvard. In response to these demands, Harvard President Alan Garber asserted that the government's directives constituted direct governmental regulation that infringed upon the university's independence and constitutional rights. No government, regardless of which party is in power, should dictate what private universities can teach, whom they can admit and hire, and which areas of study and inquiry they can pursue, Garber wrote in a public statement. This stance has garnered support from many within the academic community who are wary of increasing political interference in educational institutions. Despite this pushback, the administration's focus on universities appears unlikely to diminish. Some observers suggest that this approach aligns with the strategies employed by leaders in other nations who have sought to consolidate power by influencing or controlling independent sectors of society, including higher education. Wolfson highlighted this point, noting, "People in the administration have read their history, and they know that authoritarian regimes often target higher education as an independent sector and society and aim to undermine it because of its role in creating an educated populace that could stand up to all forms of authoritarian rule. And so this is part of a standard playbook of authoritarianism, to attack and to attempt to control or destroy higher education." This spotlight on universities shows past periods in American history, such as the efforts of Senator Joseph McCarthy, who aimed to identify and remove individuals he accused of holding communist or Marxist beliefs. However, the current administration's actions extend beyond universities, with directives also targeting major law firms, leading some to commit significant resources to causes favored by the government. While the American administration frames its actions as a response to concerns about anti-Semitism and alleged civil rights violations, particularly following protests related to the conflict in Gaza, many outside of certain political circles view these justifications with skepticism. Steven Pinker, a faculty member at Harvard, offered a counterpoint stating, "As a Jewish faculty member, I'm sensitive to anti-Semitism on campus, and it does exist and it should be combated. But the claim that Harvard is a bastion of anti-Semitism is just wild hyperbole. 3 of our last 4 presidents who've served longer than a year have been Jewish. The 4th was married to a Jewish professor." This statement highlights the complexity of the issue and challenges the administration's broad characterization of the university. Harvard's prominent position as a leading American university, part of the prestigious Ivy League, has made it a focal point in this debate. Its extensive alumni network, which includes numerous influential figures in politics, media, and business, ensures that its affairs receive widespread attention.
Meanwhile, today, President Trump signed a series of new executive orders in the Oval Office. The 7 orders focused on education. The president signed an action that calls for harder enforcement of a federal law requiring colleges to disclose large foreign gifts. Another aims to change the college accreditation process, which determines whether colleges can accept federal financial aid awarded to students. Trump's order calls on the government to suspend or terminate accreditors that discriminate in the name, what the Trump administration referred to today as, quote, woke ideologies rather than merit.
Lauren Lasabi Shepard, a historian specializing in U.S. colleges and universities and author of Resistance from the Right: Conservatives and the Campus Wars, explains the significance of Ivy League institutions. We've got between 4,000 and 5,000 higher education institutions in the U.S. The Ivies always make headlines. The history of political tension with universities is not new. As Shepard points out, this dynamic has roots that stretch back decades. During his 1966 campaign for governor of California, Ronald Reagan utilized public sentiment against anti-Vietnam War student protests, promising to clean up the mess at Berkeley. This echoes similar tactics used by the current administration. Ray Colvig, former chief public information officer at UC Berkeley, recalled Reagan's efforts to influence faculty appointments, stating that Reagan wanted to establish a special process to select faculty in several disciplines. In other words, he wanted to set a political standard for appointing faculty members. This idea was widely opposed, and it went away.
As the Ivy League institution pushes back against President Trump's attacks on higher education. This week, the Trump administration said it's freezing $2.2 billion in federal grants and $60 million in contracts to Harvard after it defied an order to eliminate all DEI initiatives, further crack down on Palestinian rights protests, including reporting international students to federal authorities, among a number of other issues. Harvard President Alan Garber wrote in a letter to the school community Monday, quote, "The university will not surrender its independence or relinquish its constitutional rights. No government, regardless of which party is in power, should dictate what private universities can teach, whom they can admit and hire, and which areas of study and inquiry they can pursue," unquote.
The desire to establish alternative, conservative-leaning universities also has a long history, dating back to the 1920s. Furthermore, the actions of Senator Joseph McCarthy in the mid-20th century represent another significant chapter in the political scrutiny of higher education. Historian Ellen Schrecker, author of No Ivory Tower: McCarthyism and the Universities, recently argued that the current administration's approach is worse than McCarthy. So what could be the next Trump move? Will he be persistent to control institutions, or will he give up? Let us know in the comments, and if you want to stay on top of this, smash that like and subscribe button.